A very strange message. Well, actually, it's not a strange message. It's just, I guess it makes perfect sense. I've gotten 4 or 5 variations on this in Twitter, over on Facebook, and I even got one in email. This guy writes, why won't Pelosi and Schumer simply pass legislation to reopen the government? And apparently, the people who keep asking this, and you know, with increasing frequency, don't know that Pelosi and Schumer have already passed legislation to open the government. You know, it passed the United States Senate back in December. It passed the U.S. House just a few weeks ago. The Democrats are doing everything they can to open the government. It is Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell who are keeping it shut down, which raises the question, why? Now, and in fact, I'd like to put this to you. Why do you think that this is going on? Here's a couple of possibilities. Last night, Rachel Maddow floated the idea that it's all about shutting down and destroying the FBI. The FBI opened an investigation of Donald Trump in the first weeks of his presidency, and perhaps even a few weeks before that, but right around the time of the election, the FBI opened an active investigation into whether Donald Trump was either wittingly or unwittingly an agent of a foreign government. Now, that's pretty serious stuff. And that provoked things like, you know, right-wing talk show host Howie Carr out of Boston. He's writing this for the Boston Herald. This is like, you know, a major newspaper, a nationally syndicated or regionally syndicated talk show host who has a very substantial audience. When Louise and I lived in New Hampshire, I used to listen to Howie Carr on the radio. You know, he's good at what he does. But here's the piece that he wrote for the Boston Herald. He says, the opening sentence, "It's time to abolish the Federal Bureau of Investigation." He writes, "The G-men have degenerated into nothing more than a racketeering enterprise of Banana Republic-style criminal conspiracy of vast proportions. Now we know that the FBI was plotting a coup against President-elect Trump." And then he asks right up front, he says, "We've eradicated earlier threats. The Communist Party and La Cosa Nostra. Is the current police state incarnation of the FBI any less sinister than either of those two mobs?" He says, "Abolishing the FBI may sound like a radical solution, but they've metastasized into a clear and present danger to the Republic." Well, apparently they've turned into a clear and present danger to, you know, a grifter, con man, front man for oligarchs around the world and the Russian mob, the guy in the White House. So much so that over at Fox News, Andrew Napolitano, the Fox News senior judicial analyst, this is from Ken Meyer over at Mediaite, said the FBI has been caught in a plan to undermine President Donald Trump. Napolitano joined Fox and Friends on Tuesday, this morning, to talk about how FISA warrants factored into the FBI's investigation. Basically saying that, you know, they're inappropriately using FISA warrants to get information on Donald Trump, and then Trump tweets it. This was just, you know, a few minutes ago, right? Maybe an hour or so ago. Donald Trump tweets, FBI top lawyer confirms unusual steps, which is illegal. That has corrupted them. That has enabled them to gather evidence by unconstitutional means. That's what they did to the president, quoting Judge Napolitano in a tweet. Rachel's position was that, and you know, you can't dispute this, that if you want to destroy the FBI, there's 2 ways to do it. Very easy, very straightforward ways that Donald Trump is seeking to destroy the FBI. The first is just destroy their morale. In fact, since you don't believe in government, since you believe that the billionaires and the big corporations should handle everything, all right? They should be responsible for Social Security. They should be responsible for Medicare. They should be responsible for Medicaid. They should be responsible for all our social welfare programs, at least those that we haven't handed off to churches. You know, it's a twofer. Not only do you take down the FBI, but you take down the entire government. So number one. And number two, if you work for the FBI, you've got to have a security check. And the security checks get updated every year or two. And these background checks, and one of the things that they look at, one of the things that can destroy your security clearance is if you are financially insecure. because that makes you vulnerable to things like bribes or corruption. And as Rachel pointed out last night, she said one easy peasy way to screw up the FBI would be to start taking away paychecks from all those people all at once. And not just the FBI, the other intelligence agencies as well. She says, with that one genius move, you can break the family finances of basically every single law enforcement national security agent in the country. In that one fell swoop with this just one neat trick, you screw up all of their careers. You create security clearance problems for all of them all at once by putting them all under financial strain. Meanwhile, the other thing about this, Ross Barkan over at The Guardian writing, Mitch McConnell has now twice blocked Democratic bills to reopen the federal government. And he says it's striking how little Trump and the Senate Republican majority care. And I would say it's not that the Republicans don't care about what's happening to 800,000 Americans and frankly, millions of Americans, because, when government workers aren't going to work and they're not getting paid, the restaurants in the neighborhood that serve them lunch go out of business or have a crisis. Marriott says that their business is down 25% in Washington, D.C., et cetera, right? You get all this. So you've got, people like Paul Ryan, who called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. Ronald Reagan talked about starving the beast, and that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, housing programs, welfare programs should all be radically cut, if not taken off the books altogether. And, in January, when Trump said, well, this shutdown could go on for years, he was basically saying, the federal government doesn't mean anything to me. Ted Cruz said the same thing back in 2013 when he shut down the government over an attempt to destroy Obamacare. I mean, if you really believe that the federal government is illegitimate, if you really believe that the federal government harms liberty in the United States, why wouldn't you want to shut it down? And in fact, over at the National Review, Kevin Williamson just wrote a piece. He says the temporary shutdown of parts of the federal government is a good argument for the permanent shutdown of parts of the federal government. Right? So this is the classic, Reagan fine-tuned this brilliantly. This is the classic Republican strategy. Break government. This is why they defunded not the amount of money Social Security can pay to people, but the number of Social Security agents who can answer the phone and help you sign up. This is why, they cut hundreds of millions of dollars out in the last budget, the Republicans, out of the Social Security Administration, out of Medicare. So it's harder for you to sign up. It's easier for you to sign up with Medicare Advantage, the private for-profit version of Medicare that, United Healthcare sells. Because they don't have any limits on the number of salespeople they can hire. And your and my Social Security and Medicare tax dollars are going right to United Healthcare and through them to the AARP. So when Americans discover that, the services that they like, the government that they like is not working the way it should, then they lose loyalty. Which brings us to, why are the Republicans, why are they voting to give hundreds of millions of dollars to a mobbed-up Russian oligarch, Oleg Deripaska, but they won't give anything to the 800,000 Americans who are out of work? And ultimately millions. I mean, the guys who voted to help out the oligarch, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Mitt Romney, John Cornyn, Richard Burr, Ted Cruz, Ron Johnson, John Thune. I mean, if you want to call any of these guys at 202-224-3121 and just ask them, why is it that you're giving millions of dollars to a Russian oligarch, but you won't even hold a vote on whether or not to fund, whether or not to put Americans back to work? Why do you love the Russian oligarch more than American workers? Senator McConnell, Senator Graham, Senator Romney, Senator Cornyn, Senator Burr, Senator Cruz, Senator Johnson, Senator Thune. Why do you love a Russian oligarch more than you love American workers? And now Donald Trump's wall has gone totally steel, right? Totally steel. Well, it turns out there's only one company that can make that kind of steel. It's a Canadian, it's located in Canada, it's called Evraz. It is owned principally by a guy named Roman Abramovich, whose wife is good friends with Ivanka Trump. He is a Russian national with Israeli citizenship. He owns that steel company. Putin owns part of it. That's located in Canada. That's the only one that can manufacture the specific type of metal beams Trump wants for his wall. If that wall is built, Abramovich's company is going to make up to $30 billion. I mean, keep in mind, this wall probably will cost $70 or $80 billion by the time it's done. His company will get huge. By the way, he owns a yacht. It's called the Eclipse. It's worth it's a $500 million yacht. Donald Trump has vacationed on this yacht. Abramovich applied for residency in Switzerland a couple of years ago. They said, nope, you're engaged in money laundering. And this is all on the public record. Right? A money laundering Israeli citizen, Russian oligarch billionaire owns the steel company that is the only company in North America that can make the kind of steel that Donald Trump has now decided he wants his wall made out of. The guy's wife is good friends with Ivanka Trump. What the hell is going on here? You've got a Republican Party that openly hates the government of the United States. You've got a president who was negotiating with a foreign power and with foreign oligarchs to build, a new hotel or Trump Tower or whatever it is in Russia while he was running for president of the United States. You've got Rudy Giuliani out there trying to desensitize all of us to this, right? Drip, drip, drip. You drop the horrible details, and then you walk back from them. And you say, oh, I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. And then, a year later, when it comes out as a result of an investigation, what do you say? Well, you say, hey, that's old news. Why are you reporting on that? Bob Mueller says that, Trump was fill in the blank, all the stuff that I just said. Yeah, but we already knew that. Rudy Giuliani told us that a year ago. I mean, what the hell is going on here? Why do you think Trump is shutting down the